1. Critical Cisco ISE Flaw. Unauthenticated attackers can execute root code. 2. Critical Cisco ISE Flaw. What you need to know. 3. Critical Cisco ISE Bug CVE 2025-20337 Fixed. CVSS 10 Severity Explained. 1. Critical Cisco ISE Flaw. Unauthenticated attackers can execute root code. In a shocking revelation, Cisco has unveiled a highly critical security vulnerability that could potentially allow unauthenticated attackers to execute root code on their Identity Services Engine, ISE, and Cisco ISE Passive Identity Connector, ISE-PIC. This flaw, identified as CVE 2025-20337, carries a perfect CVSS score of 10.0, indicating its severity. Cisco explained that the vulnerability lies in a specific API of Cisco ISE and Cisco ISE-PIC, which could permit an unauthenticated, remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on the underlying operating system as root. The attacker doesn't require any valid credentials to exploit this vulnerability. This issue arises from insufficient validation of user-supplied input, making it possible for an attacker to submit a crafted API request and potentially gain root privileges on an affected device. The discovery of this flaw is credited to Kentaro Kawane of GMO Cybersecurity, who has previously reported other critical Cisco ISE flaws and a critical bug in Fortinet FortiWeb. CVE 2025-20337 affects ISE and ISE-PIC releases 3.3 and 3.4, regardless of device configuration, but does not impact ISE and ISE-PIC release 3.2 or earlier. The issue has been patched in the following versions: Cisco ISE or ISE-PIC release 3.3, fixed in 3.3 patch 7, and Cisco ISE or ISE-PIC release 3.4, fixed in 3.4 patch 2. While there's no evidence of this vulnerability being exploited in a malicious context yet, it's always recommended to keep systems up to date to avoid potential threats. This disclosure comes amidst reports of threat actors exploiting publicly released exploits associated with CVE 2025-25257 to drop web shells on susceptible Fortinet FortiWeb instances since July 11, 2025. As of July 15, there are estimated to be 77 infected instances, down from 85 the day before. The majority of the compromises are concentrated around North America, 44, Asia 14, and Europe 13. Data from the Attack Surface Management Platform census shows that there are 20,098 Fortinet FortiWeb appliances online, excluding honeypots, although it's currently not known how many of these are vulnerable to CVE 2025-25257. This flaw enables unauthenticated attackers to execute arbitrary SQL commands via crafted HTTP requests, leading to remote code execution, RCE. But here's where it gets controversial. While Cisco has been quick to patch this vulnerability, the question remains whether other similar vulnerabilities exist in their systems. And this is the part most people miss: the importance of regular system updates and vigilance in maintaining cybersecurity. 2. Critical Cisco ISE Flaw. What you need to know. A critical vulnerability has been identified and subsequently patched in Cisco's Identity Services Engine, ISE, and the ISE Passive Identity Connector, ISE-PIC. This serious flaw enabled malicious actors to execute arbitrary code with elevated privileges on the operating system of devices utilizing these tools. The issue was addressed in the software updates for versions 3.3 and 3.4. Cisco ISE serves as a robust platform for network security policy management and access control, allowing organizations to effectively oversee who and what can connect to their networks. In contrast, The ISE-PIC is a streamlined service designed to gather identity information about users and devices without necessitating traditional authentication methods. These tools are predominantly employed by IT and cybersecurity teams within enterprises that manage extensive or intricate network environments. The significance of timely patching. Recently, Kentaro Kawane, a security researcher from GMO Cybersecurity, uncovered a vulnerability related to inadequate validation of user-supplied input. This flaw can be exploited by sending a specially crafted API request, and alarmingly, it does not require valid credentials to take advantage of the weakness. This vulnerability is catalogued as CVE 2025-20337 and has been assigned a critical severity rating of 10 out of 10. It impacts versions 3.3 and 3.4 of the software, irrespective of the device configuration. However, earlier versions, specifically 3.2 and below, are not affected by this issue. Cisco has released patches to rectify the vulnerabilities in the following versions. Cisco ISE, or ISE-PIC Release 3.3, fixed in 3.3 Patch 7. Cisco ISE, or ISE-PIC Release 3.4, fixed in 3.4 Patch 2. The importance of staying updated. Fortunately, there is currently no evidence suggesting that this vulnerability has been exploited by cybercriminals in the wild. However, it is crucial to note that hackers often target organizations only after vulnerabilities are publicly disclosed, as many companies delay applying necessary patches. By neglecting to update their hardware and software, organizations leave themselves vulnerable, effectively opening the door for cybercriminals to infiltrate their systems. Thus, it is highly advisable for organizations to implement these patches promptly to mitigate the risk of potential attacks. Join the conversation. What are your thoughts on the importance of timely software updates? Do you believe organizations are doing enough to protect themselves against such vulnerabilities? Share your opinions in the comments below. 3. Critical Cisco ISE Bug CVE 2025-20337 Fixed. CVSS 10 Severity Explained. Imagine a single security flaw so severe it could hand complete control of your network's security system to hackers, with no login required. That's the terrifying reality behind Cisco's newly patched vulnerability, CVE 2025-20337, scoring a perfect 10 on the criticality scale. But here's where it gets truly alarming. This flaw resembles another near-identical vulnerability, CVE 2025-20281, that Cisco patched just months earlier, raising serious questions about systemic security patterns. Cisco has urgently addressed CVE 2025-20337 within its Identity Services Engine, ISE, and ISE Passive Identity Connector, ISE-PIC. This critical flaw allows remote attackers to execute any commands they want on affected systems with maximum root privileges, essentially giving them complete control over the compromised device. The vulnerability stems from inadequate input validation in specific API requests. Attackers could exploit it simply by sending a maliciously crafted API call to vulnerable systems. What makes this situation particularly complex is its resemblance to CVE 2025-20281, another maximum severity vulnerability patched in June 2025 that affected ISE-PIC versions 3.3+. Both flaws share the same root cause: insufficient validation of user-supplied input. And this is the part most administrators miss. Cisco initially released incomplete patches for these vulnerabilities. The hot patches labeled ISE, Apply, CSQO 99449_3.3.0.430_patch 4 SPA .tar.gz, and ISE-PIC CSQO 99449_3.4.0.608_patch1 were withdrawn after failing to fully resolve the issue. Here's your essential patching roadmap. Systems running ISE Release 3.4 Patch 2 require no further action. Devices on Release 3.3 Patch 6 must upgrade to Patch 7 immediately. Earlier versions, 3.2 and below, are unaffected. Critical perspective: with 2 perfect, 10 vulnerabilities emerging in the same product family within months, does this indicate deeper quality control issues in Cisco's security products? The researcher Kentaro Kawane of GMO Cybersecurity deserves credit for discovering CVE 2025-20337 through Trend Micro's Zero-Day Initiative. While Cisco hasn't observed active exploits yet, the window for attackers to reverse engineer these patches is now wide open. So we ask, should enterprise vendors like Cisco face stricter accountability when critical vulnerabilities reappear in similar forms? Share your take below. Is this a troubling pattern, or just inevitable security growing pains?